Hello and welcome all. Today in this video, we would be looking at deployment of agentless monitoring on K3s. This video is divided into two parts. In part 1, we would look at deployment of K3s and its configuration and deployment of agentless monitoring containerized suite. Part 2, we would look at onboarding of SiteScope. So let us quickly jump to part 1 and start deploying K3s and the agentless monitoring. We do have a detailed steps and description of what needs to be done for this deployment in the practitioner guide on our docs.microfocus.com. So the link for the same is this. We do have this document which talks about the installation of agentless monitoring deployment on K3s. So this document is a detailed documentation of the various prerequisites that are required for the installation, then the installation steps, and also how can we get the agentless monitoring deployment, which is a part of the Optic containerized suite installed on K3s. As we all know, K3s is a lightweight Kubernetes cluster, and it is pretty easy to use and it can be installed on a single node. So let us quickly jump into the documentation and see what is it that we require for this installation. Okay, so this document talks about what is there with respect to the agentless monitoring. So this guide will focus on installing a single node K3s system using the local storage and an embedded Postgres database. So that means everything is already embedded, so there is no external database or any NFS that is required for installing this. And K3s is going to be a single node installation. It also talks about it is going to be a low footprint single node installation, and there is no support for Grafana or Prometheus as we want to keep the resources as low consumption, and only the CLI based installation is supported. The App Hub UI is currently not available for this installation. So let us look at the system prerequisites. So for the system prerequisites, we need CentOS 7.9 or above with a minimum CPU of 8 CPUs, 16 GB memory, and 250 GB or high hard disk. So I have created a system with this prerequisites and it is ready for our installation. So let us go ahead and get the K3s installation done. So there is a link that is provided for us to the K3s official website, which takes us through the documentation of K3s, and it also gives us instructions of how to install K3s. And installing K3s is very simple. If we look at the document, it is just one line that we need to execute. So let us go ahead and quickly install K3s on our system. So this is the system that I have created with the prerequisites as per the documentation. So I would be executing this step in the command to install K3s. I just copy paste this command here, and I do see this command is going to download all the required packages for installing the Kubernetes cluster, and then the installation of the same packages will start. As we see, it takes a few minutes to download the packages and installing them. You see that all the packages are downloaded, and then now the installation has begun. So So it would be installing all the dependencies, that is the SE-Linux, container SE-Linux and the K3s. Installation is done and it is starting the Kubernetes cluster for us. Yeah, the Kubernetes cluster has started. So let us see what this cluster has and check on the other details. So as we see that this is a single node cluster, we have the master, it's only a master and the control plane that is available. So this is the only node that will be available in our cluster. And here we see that it has created various namespaces. And when we see here, we do see that the pods are still getting created and all of them are under the cube system namespace. Yeah, so we do have all the pods created, all the services up and running, and we do have a working Kubernetes cluster now. Let's go back to our documentation and see what is it there for us to do. Okay, once we have installed the Kubernetes cluster, there are a few adjustments we need to do for our Optic suite with agentless monitoring installed. So we need to disable the traffic and extend the port range to allow the allocation of port 443. So the traffic is a network component of Kubernetes or the K3s, and this one we will be disabling as we would be using the internal one that comes with the Optic suite. And also we would allow, that is all the for the HTTP communication, we would allow the allocation of port 443. And this can be done by adjusting the K3s startup parameters to include. So they have also mentioned the startup parameters that we need to give when we install when we start the K3s service. So let us see what is the state of traffic. It is currently running here. You see that this is the networking component traffic which is currently running. So we need to disable this. So this exit parameter or the startup parameters for K3s should be included in the startup file. So where do we find the startup file? The startup file for K3s service will be available under etc systemd system K3s.service. Yeah. So let us look at what is the current startup we have for the service. So currently it says it is just starting with all the default parameters. So we do not want this. We will replace the startup with the one we have in the document. Okay. Now I would want to restart the service. It says that the daemon needs to be reloaded as service change. Okay, let us reload the daemon and stop the service. And now start the service. Okay, now let us see what is it with the traffic pod. This is still running. Oh yeah, it's got deleted. If you see, now my cluster does not have the traffic running, so it is gone. So going back to the documentation, yes, I have done this. I have restarted my Kubernetes cluster, and now it is running without traffic. After changing the service configuration further, okay, create a kubeconfig file. Okay. This kubeconfig file will be required for us for the later steps. That is when we install the OMT toolkit. So for now, let us just go ahead and create the file that is required. So this folder should already be present for us because of the K3s in place. So here we are going to copy the K3s YAML into the config file. Okay. So the copy part is done. Just to have a quick look at what we have copied and what is the content of this file. This just talks about the cluster certificate and things like that. So this should be good for us. Okay, now let us go to the next step, that is the Helm installation. So Helm would be the component that we would be using for our OpSwitch containerized suite deployment. And as we all know that Helm is also a third-party tool that we are using. There are the official URL is provided here for us to install Helm. So going to this site, the official website, we do have installing Helm, and current version is 3.9, so we will stay there. And the easiest way for us to install Helm would be using a script. If you require any specific version, you can go through the binary release also, but as of now we will go with the script as it installs the latest available Helm. So it is pretty simple. It just requires a couple of steps for us, and we do have Helm up and running. So now we need to see, it should have downloaded one file for us, that is the gethelm.sh. So we would add execute permissions for this file and execute this, and we see that Helm is getting installed, and yes, we have Helm installed already. Let us quickly verify what is the version we have got. It should be 3.9.1. That's the latest available version in the repo, and we have that in place. Going back to our practitioner portal, yes, we have the prerequisites, and we have the Helm version, Kubernetes version, these things. One more thing that we need to do as a part of prerequisites is DNS resolution. So DNS resolution is basically required to resolve all the addresses of SiteScope that you will be wanting to manage. So we need to have that. And we also need to create and activate a Docker Hub account for us to enable us to download the required packages for the OMT and the Operations Bridge containerized suite. Okay, now that we have all the required prerequisites for our Optic Management Toolkit and the containerized suite, we can go ahead and install the Optic Management Toolkit. Now that we have installed the prerequisites that are required for the Agentless monitoring deployment, we will proceed with the installation of the Optic Management Toolkit. So for the Optic Management Toolkit, we need to download the installation package that is available in our software download page. So the details about where we can download the package is also given. So we need to go to the software downloads page. I have already logged into the software download page here, and I go to the downloads. OMT is available in both Express edition as well as the full entitled edition. So we can pick any of those, and we need to download the chart 2025. So if we look here, they are asking us to download the OMT external K3s.zip. So let us see if this is available here. Yeah, we do have the Optic management toolkit for external Kubernetes installation and upgrade. So we can download this. On my system, I have already downloaded the packages and have them ready. So this is my system, and I have downloaded the packages here, the OMT external. So let us see what the documentation says with regards to the installation. So it's a zip file. Just go ahead and uninstall the zip. So this one gives us an external K3s 2022.5 2.4 zip. So this is the package that would have our installables. Yeah, so it's deflipping, and yes. Yeah, now I get into this folder. So it has all the components that are required for us to install the OMT. And here what they say is we are installing the capabilities of tool, only the tools and none of the other things. So the command to install OMT is also available. I would just go and install this. We are not installing the fully blown CDF, but just that only the toolkit is what we are installing. Okay, tools are copied to root CDF. Okay, now we have this. Now to reload, we need to set the environment variables in the path. So we need to reload the environment, log off or log on. So how do we do that? That is also specified here in this enable OMT tools. So we can do this. And now we have set the path. So just to check the content of what is there in the source file. So it is just setting the path for our CDF home, and our CDF home is set to root CDF. Okay, now going back to the documentation. We have our Kubernetes cluster, and we see that it has only working as a master node as of now. So we need to label this node as worker also. So now we will be adding the worker label to the master node. So let us go ahead and do that. So how do I do kubectl get nodes? So I am going to label this one with the worker label. So I would just go add the label as worker. So it has been labeled. Okay. Now we will go ahead with the agentless monitoring deployment. Now we have our Optic management toolkit deployed. Now we would be installing the agentless monitoring. And as you all know, agentless monitoring comes with the OpsBridge containerized suite. So for this, we need to download the latest OpsBridge containerized suite chart from the downloadable software downloads page, and that is also available here. So if you can see, you have the OpsBridge chart. I have downloaded the chart also at my end. So if you see, I have downloaded the chart just some time back from the download site, and I will go ahead and unzip this to see what is the content of our zip file. Yeah, so I do have the various charts. Yeah, I do have the chart, the OpsBridge chart, that is the DGZ file, and various other deployments, samples, scripts, and tools, all that are required for our deployment. So whenever we are installing the containerized suite, we need to have a secondary or a namespace that we need to specify for our containerized suite deployment. So let us do this. Give it a deployment name. I would say K3s Agentless, and the name for our namespace. So name for our namespace. So now if you see, we have our namespace created. So we would be using this namespace to install our containerized suite. So what is it that we do to install the containerized suite? So we need to configure the deployment options. Okay. So in the deployment options, what are we doing? So we need to first create a values.yaml file, which will be helpful for us, or which will provide the required parameters for the deployment. So there is a sample given, and we can use this. So the chart also comes with the sample values file. So it is under sample folder. Samples. So we can take the values.yaml. So let us make a copy of this and place it under our root. Values underscore K3s dot YAML. Okay. So yes, I will copy this. Now we will go and update our YAML file for our deployment. Yes, so I will update the values in my list as per the documentation. So in the documentation, if we see, they are asking us to make changes in the file and make sure we do not use tabs. Okay, so we are accepting the EULA, and then we would specify our host name. Then we are enabling the services, persistence, storage class, Docker, and the database. Okay, let us now update the file. External port is 443. Then we will have to enable the capability. Save the file. So these are the only changes that we need to do. And now we had installed the tools. So in the tools, we would use this generate download bundle.sh, which comes as a part of the tool to download the images from the Docker registry. Yeah. Now let us start the download of images. So we need to execute this. So if you see, we do have the generate download bundle is available under CDF tools. So that was something that we installed when we had installed the ONT toolkit. So we shall go ahead and do this. We are specifying the chart. So our chart is under this location for us. So we have specified the chart. Then we specify where we have placed the values.yaml file. So we have to specify the location where we have the updated values.yaml file. Yes. And also this, and getting everything into the temp directory. Specifying the yes, and now I will go ahead and execute this. See what this generates for us. So this has generated a offline underscore download zip under the temp folder. So under the temp folder, I will have a file called as offline downloads. Okay, fine. We just created one. So we are going to unzip this and we are going to download the images. Yeah. So what we will do is, in our current directory, we will create one folder to get all the download files. So I will create one directory called as offline download images, and I will move the offline download zip file into this folder. files. So let us something went wrong. Give me a moment. Yeah, the file is here. I would unzip the content, and once I unzip the content, I do see that there is this offline folder for me, and it has a download images also. They're asking us to add execute permissions, so this already has execute permissions, and now I would go ahead and download the images. So here, this is where you will be giving your Docker account details, and it will download the content from your Docker registry. It's asking me for my password. It is going to download all the images into our offline downloads, download images directory. This will take some time, around some 5 to 10 minutes, because it has to download all the images that are required. Yeah, so we do see that the images are getting downloaded. Yeah, so it has downloaded all the required images. Now let us go to the documentation again. So yeah, we have already downloaded the install the agent monitor. Then import the images using the image directory and the location directory. Okay, so we will execute this command just to make sure that all the images are unpacked. So we need to specify our images location, so where our files are downloaded. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to unpack all the images. This will take some time, probably another couple of minutes to start. this unpackaging has been done. Now let us see what is the next step that we have. So we need to create a secrets.yaml file. So the secrets.yaml file is the file that would contain all the credentials that are required for our deployment. And the password needs to be encoded, and we can use this command to encode the password. So there is a sample, that is sample secrets YAML. So let us use the same file. So let me get the notepad for the creation of this file. Okay. So what are all the passwords? So okay, I will just, and before we can go ahead and do this, I would need to update my password to the password that I wish to have for my secrets. So let me execute this command with my choice of password. Yeah, or we can leave the same thing and get the encoded value. Make sure the copy is right. So I would replace all the credentials with the same password that I have. File. So let me go back to the location where I would have all my files that I create. So I am in this folder where I have all my files. So I would say secrets.yaml, and I would put the content here. Yes. Yeah, I have created the secrets.yaml file. Now, since our deployment is going to be a low footprint deployment, we would also need to create one low footprint YAML. So let us. So I would create one low footprint.yaml in the same location, and yeah. So here what we are specifying is the deployment size is going to be low footprint, and how many replicas of each of this IDM and the ingress controller we would want. Because it is low footprint, we would not want to have too many replicas. So we would have just one of each. Yes. So yes, I do have my secrets.yaml and also my low footprint.yaml. Yes. Now going back to my document. The next step for us would be to get the certificate for connecting to SiteScope. And then we would go ahead and deploy the agentless monitoring. So in our case, I have already copied the CA cert in the folder where we put all the installer files. So under my files, I have copied the certificate. Now, yeah. So what are we going to do? We are ready for the final deployment. Yes. So now we are going to execute this step to deploy our OpsSpread suite with agentless monitoring capability. So let me copy this and yes. Okay. So this will be my deployment name. I will give the namespace as MCC. The namespace should be the same namespace that we had mentioned. So let us quickly see what namespace we earlier created. Yeah, it is MCC. Then we are going to give the certificate file. So the certificate file is under root 2025 and this is my certificate file. I have given my certificate file and the location where we have the K3s YAML values.yaml. So all my files are under the same folder. Low footprint is also in the same folder. I have my secrets file in the same folder and I will have my, let us just make sure that our chart file is also there. Yeah, chart file is here. And just to make it doubly sure, I'm even copying the chart file name. Yes, I have my Helm install command ready. I will execute this command now. And this will deploy my chart. Under the namespace MCC. Yeah. So this gives the summary of what has been deployed. So we can look at, we have the IDM admin, we have AutoPass, we have BVT. Then it will also be creating an internal Postgres for our suite. These are the URLs that we would be using at some point in time to access. Here it does specify Grafana, but for now Grafana support would not be there, so this would just be a documentation. So let me copy the summary so that I would have the locations for my URLs. So let me put it in my notepad. Okay. Yeah. Now let us see how my deployment is going. Okay. So this it will take about 10 minutes for the pods to get deployed. So we can put a watch on this command and leave it. So this keeps refreshing. So we do see a few pods coming up and the status changes. So it would take about 10 to 15 minutes and then we would see all the pods up and running. Yeah, now we see all the pods are up and running. All the pods are up and running now, and it takes about 15 minutes for the pods to come up. This is also mentioned in the documentation. This is the end of part 1 of the video. We have successfully deployed K3s and also the containerized suite for agentless monitoring. See you all in part 2 of the video where we would be onboarding SiteScope.